Thank you so much for introduction. All the leaders, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Thank you so much and for coming here today. And I'm going to give you some main contents of China's Palladium and Platinum and Palladium Yearbook. So on the basis of last year's big structure, and we included some very important feedbacks from the readers. So the framework is basically the same and of last year, and from the supply and from the demand, and then we are going to analyze the prices in the market and the listed company. So we included the listed companies into this year's yearbook because some of the readers, they give the feedback to us in addition to the data and the numbers. They also wanted to know the typical representative companies of PGM industry. So this yearbook is more like the charity reading material. So that's why we wanted to give you a wider dimension. And I'm going to include some important events and milestone events of last year. And I'm going to introduce you about the supply of PGMs of China. And there are three channels and for supply. One is the mining, recycling, and imports. And in terms of the mining, and you can see that in terms of the geolocation, China is not a major producing country. And for PGMs, I'm going to talk about the overview of supply. Last year, we provided 128.4 tons of palladium and platinum, among which platinum accounted for 95.9 tons and palladium 32.4 tons. So actually, and we can see that the imports of platinum reduced hugely last year. However, and for palladium, and you can see the imports and dropped hugely compared with the platinum. However, because there are a lot of fuel-ins from the recycling of palladium. And if we go to three channels, for mining and supplies was 4.9 tons, and there was a small growth. And for the recycling, 32.4 tons, and increased hugely. So channel 1, channel 2 are more like under the self-supply channel, contributed to almost 30%, and for the rest of 70%, we still rely on the imports. And now I'm going to deep down and into the three channels and independent separately. And as I said,
China is not a major producer of PGM, and mostly global PGMs are distributed in South Africa, Russia, and the regions like Canada. So for these regions, they basically account for 80 to 90% of global reserve put together, and China only has a very low proportion of global reserve. Because of that, China doesn't produce a lot of minerals. The growth, though, is quite good. As you can see, last year, increase of 22.7% year-on-year, and platinum and palladium production on par with each other, mostly because of the primary supply is from the mines in Jinchuan of China. The change of their grade leads to change of production volume. So on the whole, primary supply only represents a very small portion of the total supply. And the second source of supply comes from recycling, and the growth from that channel was very significant. In total last year, 32.4 tons, and most of the growth comes from palladium, up by 60% year-on-year for two reasons. As you can see on the right-hand side, the chart on the right-hand side, as you can see from 2022 to 2023, recycled amount of palladium dropped significantly. So we have to we should not mention that the recycled amount is closely related to the industry policies. Last year, as you may have known, that around July, August in 2023, the CIPMG gave to the whole industry this circular to suspend the recycling of TWC so that the industry can better regulate itself. As a result, in 2023, a lot of TWC containing palladium was not recycled in 2023, and this amount was then recycled this year, the year of 2024. That's one reason. And the second reason is that around March, April 2024, the state government of China issued a number of policies to encourage trading of consumables as well as large equipment, including vehicles. It means that consumers can trade in their old vehicles, and they will receive some subsidies from the state government as a result, because palladium accounts for a bigger proportion of the metals used in the vehicles compared with platinum. That's why you saw recycled supply of palladium was increase of recycled palladium supply was more significant compared with recycled platinum. And last year, the recycled amount was tremendous, and it further led to the increased proportion of supply from domestic China. As a result, when on one hand, the supply from domestic China increased, and on the other hand, demand from China reduced. As a result, China's reliance on imported platinum and palladium decreased by 1 to 2%, according to our internal assessment. So, in other words, for China, recycled supply represents a very important channel for it to achieve supply, domestic supply. So again, recycled supply as well as primary supply from domestic China only account for 30% of the total supply, which means the rest 70% relies on import. And according to our estimate, in 2023, platinum alone was imported by the amount of 91 tons, and this number stands in contrast with the 81 tons that was imported last year, which points to the fact that imported platinum and palladium both decreased in 2024 compared with the year before. And the chart showed you where China sourced its platinum and palladium overseas, including South Africa, Russia, 224.5 billion RMB was the total importing value. So compared with importing, China only exported a minimum amount, only at the level of a kilogram. And compared with palladium, China's exported palladium is more than China's export of platinum. And most of the exported palladium and platinum products from China are semi-finished products instead of the manufactured products. So about demand, overall, I would like to talk about 4 segments. One segment is the auto catalyst, and second demand sector is from the industry, and third source of demand comes from jewelry, and fourthly, physical investment. With the exception of physical investment, all 3 segments had a shrinkage of demand last year or 2024. So as a result, demand for platinum and palladium both decreased. For the total demand of platinum and palladium, 133.3 tons, and palladium dropped more significantly compared with platinum because of where it is used. As you can see, that platinum is used in a huge variety of different areas. In addition to being used in industry, it can also be used to produce jewelry. However, in China, palladium is only used in a very limited variety of segments, and auto demand accounts for about 80% of palladium demand. That's why changes in the industry of vehicle leads to a lot of change in the demand for palladium. So as you can see, in terms of the auto catalyst, platinum and palladium in total, they used 74.2 tons in 2024 compared with the amount of 92.8 in 2023. The drop was significant. And the second biggest drop comes from industry demand. And industry demand is further classified as demand from the glass industry, petrochemical industry, chemical industry, and electronics industry, with the chemical industry demand contributing to the biggest drop. And jewelry, 11.7 tons of platinum was used by the jewelry industry. Slight drop, but not that significant. And only exception, physical investment increased, which means that demand for platinum physical investment stood at 7 tons. For vehicle, 74.2 tons in total, and mostly was the demand for palladium, 57.5 tons, and platinum, only 16.5 tons. As was mentioned by previous speaker, in terms of auto catalyst, the content of palladium is much larger than the content of platinum. So last year, the auto industry on the whole showed this trend of NEV increased dramatically, and the fast increase of NEV further replaced the market share of ICE cars And in the traditional ICE cars, the amount of palladium is substantial. NEV is further divided into several subclasses, such as BEV. BEV doesn't use any PGM, and it happens that in 2024, BEV grew very dramatically. PHEV grew as well. However, the demand from PHEV is not enough to offset the market share lost by ICE cars. In other words, because NEV cars further replace ICE cars in a lot of market areas, that's why demand for platinum and palladium from the auto industry dropped. Both have dropped, with palladium demand dropped more significantly. The second segment comes from the industry. So in total, last year in 2024, the total consumption of platinum and palladium stood at 40.4 tons, with 29.2 tons of platinum and 11.2 tons of palladium. Because platinum is known as the vitamin of industry, which is a testament to the huge amount of consumption of platinum in the industry. In addition to, or with the exception of fiberglass industry showing an increased demand for PGMs last year, electronics, petrochemical, and petroleum industry demand for PGM all dropped. They dropped too much, which means that the increased demand from the fiberglass industry is not enough to offset the drop from other segments. As was mentioned by previous speaker, platinum, rhodium, and platinum are mostly used as materials, composite materials for bushings. So in 2024, fiberglass in total capacity increased, and fiberglass is further subdivided into more segments. As a result, in total, fiberglass industry's demand for platinum increased, and fiberglass demand for platinum and palladium is very much similar to the auto industry. Mainly, such precious metals are needed as part of the catalyst. So last year, because of capacity control and because of the fact that capital investment in some areas in producing industrial use catalyst dropped, as a result, demand from industry sector dropped as well. Petroleum in China now is on track to go green and go low carbon. In addition to that, water electrolysis used as a means to produce hydrogen is more aligned with the theme of going green, which leads to a decreased demand for palladium and platinum. And petroleum industry last year only consumed 0.5 ton of platinum, and electronics dropped a little last year as well. The consumption stood only at 8.5 tons. As you know, that palladium's price has maintained high for the last couple of years. Although artificial intelligence and hard drives demand has a huge demand for palladium, but because palladium is very expensive, so that we see some substitution from other metals. That's why you see that demand for palladium from electronic industry dropped as well. So the third sector is about jewelry. Jewelry's demand dropped a little bit as well, down by 4.4%, standing at 11.7 tons. But you can see from the chart on the bottom right that the declining trend has relaxed. So in other words, that for many consecutive years, demand for platinum from the jewelry industry has been going downhill. However, some data show that such decline has been relaxed since Q4 last year, and you can feel it yourself that platinum jewelry are now seen as a competitive or alternative to gold jewelry. With gold prices being so high, to some extent, people's need for gold jewelry has been limited or has been constrained, and such consumers, their need is redirected to platinum jewelry. So starting from Q4 last year, some retailers and distributors started to increase their stock of platinum to produce platinum jewelries. But it takes time for the stocking for the increased stocking of platinum to be fed through to the consumer end, which leads to the fact that you see that jewelry demand still decreased last year, but we'd expect the jewelry demand to show recovery starting from this year. And physical investment is the only sector that have shown a positive growth of demand last year, standing at 7.0 tons, up by 20.4%. Mostly demand is for platinum, and including for platinum bars, which take the mainstream of investment need, and there is also a small amount of need for investing in platinum coins. The reason for that is because with gold prices being high, people show less interest in investing in gold, rather than then they are redirected to invest in platinum as a substitute to gold. So platinum bars are favored by individual investors, whereas larger platinum ingots are favored by institutions. So very much similar to the trend of investment in physical platinum. Last year, Shanghai Gold Exchange PT contracts increased by 29.41% year on year, increased by 100.08 tons. If you calculate bilateral contract trading volume. So after I give you a dissection of supply-demand dynamics, next up in Chapter 3, I would like to talk about the price of platinum and palladium. I will divide it into 3 specific chapters. So for this first subchapter, I will be giving you the price trend of platinum, international platinum in 2024, and in addition to the reasons that you have already heard, green hydrogen, the pursuit of green hydrogen started to see its impact on the price end, and also supply as a result of sanction is also seeing its impact fed through to the price trend. And also on the right hand side, I'm showing to you the international palladium price movement from 2022 to 2024, giving you a more longer term context view. And the last part is a newly added part so that you can know more about companies active in the industry. We have selected 4 representative listed companies, and we calculated the 4 listed companies' operation data as well as net margin data. If, say, because these companies, they don't simply focus on neither platinum or palladium, they have businesses that are more comprehensive, covering all areas of PGM. So you can see that their total profit stood at 958 million RMB, and net margin was 704 million RMB for all 4 put together. So much from me. Special thanks to our partners, including WPIC and International Palladium Association, for their support. Also, special thanks to our member companies for their support. Special thanks to Metals Focus and Zhongbo Shijin Kemao Company Limited for providing us with deep insights and information. It is with their support and collective work that we are able to make the yearbook a reality. And we look forward to more companies and industry stakeholders joining us in providing to the industry more insightful yearbook. Thank you very much.